Hello everyone! In this video, I'd like to show you how you can use CSS custom properties to reduce the size of your CSS files. Okay, so in this example, we're looking at the grid gap utility classes of the CodyHouse framework. We use these classes to modify the space in between grid items. So just to show you an example, if I modify this value from grid gap MD to grid gap XL, for example, we increase the space in between the grid items. And to do so, we set the margin bottom and margin left on all the children, and then to counterbalance this margin, we set the same margin on the parent, but using this time negative values. Okay, so and obviously we have to repeat this for all the utility classes. Our goal here is to reduce the size of this file. So if we check the starting size, we have 2 kilobytes, so it's very small, it's 2.219, but the goal here is to compare this with the new size and see how much we can reduce this in percentage. Okay, so let's go back to the file. So first of all, as you can notice, we have for each one of the utility classes this chunk of code that we repeat. So our first step here should be find a way to abstract this code into some kind of abstraction, and so that we don't have to repeat it for all the utility classes. So we can do this by using an attribute selector, and I want to target all the classes that contain grid gap within their class name. So they have to contain this string. And in doing so, we are in fact targeting all the grid gap utility classes. We can copy this and we can paste it into this new selector. And then we can replace the space variables with a new variable that we can call, for example, grid gap. Okay, now we want to define this variable inside the grid class. So grid gap is equal to 0. So by default, we don't want any gap. At this point, we can just modify and simplify the grid gap utility classes. For example, we can start from grid gap xxxxs, and we can set grid gap equal to space xxxxs. Here we go. At this point, we have to do the same for all the utility classes. As you can see, we have simplified the utility classes, and now we need way less code than before. If we check the size of our grid gap CSS file, but you can see that now we have less than 1 kilobyte. So by making this change, by using this abstraction, we have reduced the size of the file by more than half. And in case you were wondering if you can do the same using SAS variables, well, you cannot, because when you use SAS variables, you can't modify a variable inside a class, while you can do that using CSS custom properties. So this is just an example of how CSS native variables can help you simplify and maintain your code. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.